There are only truly two ways to lose in hardcore Minecraft, either in death or in corruption. Both allow in access to your Minecraft hardcore worlds that you have spent all your time building up. Worlds that some care so much for, including myself. In such a state, to see all of your hard work locked behind something that's truly out of your control is infuriating. All of that is now lost into inaccess. I would have generally preferred to die in my hardcore world. I think it would have been much more fitting, even if it were only 5 more seconds I could have got. It would have been a proper story finished, even if it were bittersweet. So, to start off with some of the projects that I have worked on which have been shown to you guys, the main one being what I have classed as the Burrowed Brewery. Basically, it was the first project I ever worked on, and subsequently it's become a mashup of all these styles that I've wanted to incorporate over the years. All starting from the very first area I picked as my Minecraft base. I wouldn't have chosen anywhere else, but honestly it's really kind of sad to see all the footage that remains of the place. I wanted to expand on this base idea and had come up with a new title called The Plateau, which was to be the project that I was going to be doing over the next course of this year. This area is basically how I was going to introduce the video I was going to be working on, with the literal answer of, hey, literally that's it. I planted, I think, over in the course of this, 250,000 wheat seeds, in both gathering enough for the hay bales, gathering enough for all the wheat seeds to plant them. It was a massive undertaking, and it's, god, that's insane thought to look back on that I planted that much. It literally took me, I think, like the course of like half a month. Then after I took like a month or two break because I got so burned out after it. Which, looking back, yeah, I understand. And one of the other projects I had very close by was a huge sign, which was for the Burrowed Brewery. It was a huge piece of map art that I had got already and had already got all the materials for, and had I think placed around about half of the materials. And I was so close to finishing it as well, which really sucks. However, yeah, you live and you learn, and I'm going to be honest, I really want to do it again, but also know that it will burn me out if I do it so quickly in the new hardcore world. Sadly, I didn't get to complete all my projects, but some were never going to be completed. Two of the projects that I think I should mention, the Steampunk City was one of the projects that I had first started and was really happy with. It would have had a huge giant factory which would have had all this infrastructure around it. However, I sort of burned myself out with the project, limiting it too much, also forcing myself into a bunch of design choices way too early on. I've ended up really regretting ever even starting the project there, and honestly, looking back, I really wish I could just blow it all up, but you can't even join the world. Anyhow, another one of the projects that I had started but also have given up on long before I had lost access to hardcore world was the Fungi Kingdom. Basically, I was going to be converting a mushroom island into a kind of like grassy kingdom with like a huge story and mythos to it, but I kind of, again, big projects burn people out if it's repetitive and boring, which was the case for these two projects. So now on to the most complex thing that I was going to be working on inside of my hardcore, the plateau. The plateau would have been this huge, gigantic mountain structure which was completely flat over the top, but underneath would have been this huge sprawling cave system. Within this cave system would have been, I believe, 4 or 5 distinct districts. The first district would have been a cave that had been flooded, kind of like locked behind 2 dams. On top of it would have sat a city completely made of like wooden stilts, all kind of spread out into areas with a bunch of fishing stuff, and underneath would have been this whole kind of decrepit, kind of like corruption just reaching over throughout the water, and Eldritch Horror kind of like bubbling up underneath the water, trying to reach over the city. On the complete opposite side, I would have had this burned out desert underneath one of them, kind of a huge amount of holes digging in through the ceiling, kind of exploring all the sandy kind of biomes, all of it leading over to a gigantic jungle themed area, which would have had an Aztec temple, all leading through a bunch of like nature that has been reclaiming a bunch of the Western themed style houses, kind of already trying to take it back after they've settled there. And the third major district that I would have been working on would have been what I'm calling punk collapse, because I have no idea how to describe it. It would have been a mix between cyberpunk, steampunk, and trash punk, which I don't even think that's the correct term, but I'm just going with it. And it would have kind of, yeah, like warm, boring colours, kind of. all of it kind of connecting on one side of the city. I think I had it on the right. On the left of the area would have been a cyberpunk themed city. The future, the colds, the darks, all of that kind of there on the left. And in the center, I would have had kind of stacked up in like bright, colorful colors as a trash punk city. All three of these would have like led on to this huge giant station slash factory, which is what I would have been replacing my original cyberpunk themed area with. All of these again would have sat underneath the giant plateau, which was what I was building over the top of my Burrowed brewery. Honestly, I am not as disappointed to lose this hardcore world, because I can now work on this project from now the day one type style. I already know what my plan is, and I want to build the plateau, and I'm going to be building the plateau again in season 2. Thanks for listening to me ramble for around about like 7 minutes. Bye. So anyway, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video. I'm going to be streaming on Saturday. There'll be a link in the video description for the channel it will be streamed on, playing a variety of games. So yeah, join me then.